Morning, Marie. How are you doing today?
Uh, Great.
Well, that's good to hear. You have a lovely place here. Do you live with anyone else in the house of Versailles?
Yes, I do. I live with my amazing husband, King Louis XVI. I've been married to since I was 14, 15. But he's not the only one who regularly resides here. We also have Louis XVII, Mary Therese, Louis Joseph, and Sophie Helen Beatrice.
Wow, that's a very interesting family. Now, when I did research on your marriage, it was difficult for me to find information on what occurred. Could you tell me how you were married?
Well, Louis and I were set to be married by my mother, Marie Therese. We were officially married, not having met each other, obviously. And we got together when I was 15. Louis decided to have a second wedding and invite family and friends to celebrate our achievement.
Wow, incredible. So in the French Gazette, I noticed that you have been profiled to be doing very unusual activities and dress up other people. Could you tell me more about these accusations?
Well, it's a very sensitive topic for me. I don't like to speak about my privacy. Profiled all the time. It's saddening to believe that one is so interested in what someone else is doing rather than focusing on real news. It is true that friends of mine will dress up and we enjoy it. Nobody will get in our way of having fun.
Well, I was very direct. Now you have very beautiful hair.
Obviously.
How did you get your hair that beautiful? Do you have anybody that does your hair, or do you style it yourself?
Someone styles my hair for me. For the past 7 years, I've been having Leonard Auti style my gorgeous hair. He does a fantastic job, especially when he styled a battleship to commemorate the sinking of the British frigate.
Well, thank you for your time out of your busy schedule. I truly appreciate it.
I was honored.
Tune in to next week's edition of What is Royalty Doing as we follow Mary for one more day. Welcome back. Today here we have Gerhart. Today we will be asking him some few questions. So how's your day been today?
Great.
That's wonderful. So let's start off by this. Why did you name the region that you claimed Canada?
Well, first, it derives from the word Canada, from the Hurricane Ero's word for settlement or village. And I was told about the root to Canada, referring to the village of the Stadacona and its surrounding area. So it kind of stuck to me, you know?
Oh yeah, I do. That makes sense. So, why did you kidnap the Indians?
I kidnapped them to teach them French. I kidnapped Chief Donnacona and his 2 kids and 9 other natives. It was to teach them French, to show France and the king proof that there is land further north and about the treasures, gold and diamonds.
Wow. Man died from scurvy. What is scurvy?
Scurvy is deficiency of vitamins. My man got it during the second voyage to Canada, and when we were trying to get back before winter, we got stuck because of the block of ice that was blocking us. We couldn't go back to France. And however, we didn't have enough food that had vitamin C in it.
How did your men survive?
With the help of a native remedy tea.
Wow. Okay, now I want to ask, where did the French expression "faut commettre les diamants du Canada" come from?
My men collected quartz crystals and iron pyrites instead of what they believed to be diamonds and gold. Translation is as false as Canadian diamonds.
So I knew you love exploring. Now, why did you stop?
I didn't want anything to do with the settlement anymore, so I set sail for France. I brought back gold, which turned out to be worthless. Canada wouldn't compensate the money for the voyages, so French exploration in the New World was suspended.
Wow. Now, I know you wrote a book called The Voyages of Jacques Cartier. Could you tell me more about that book and what it says in that book?
It's about my 3 voyages to the St. Lawrence region and the contacts with the native people there. And it describes the reaction of the French and the Iroquois with each other, and I reveal a lot about myself Inside there are letters, charts, and other documents related to the voyages.
Now I know you've encountered the King of France, and I was just like, what did you guys talk about? How did you come about that?
I was a skilled mariner who wanted to change the way things were in France, but I didn't have the social status. So, fortunately, I married my beautiful wife, Mary Catherine de Grange, daughter of a powerful political family.
Wow. Well, thank you, Jacques Barriere. Thank you for your time. I know you're busy. Tune in next week to next week's edition.
Good morning. We have a special guest here, Yuri Gagarin.
Thank you, Ejiba.
So, we had a few questions for you today.
Shoot 'em.
How long were you out of space for?
I'd say about 108 minutes.
Wow. So, did you have any control of your spacecraft?
No, once I left the orbit, I had no more control. It was controlled by like a computer program.
Why are you so interested in space?
At a young age, I was fascinated with space. In school, I was particularly interested in physics and math. After reaching my dream of flying a plane, I set my sight on one day going to space, which I did.
So, I heard your early life was disruptive. How was it?
It was terrifying. The Nazis occupied my town, also my home. They took my two older siblings, my brother Valentine and my sister Zoya, to Poland to work in the slave labor camps. They returned after the war dies.
Well, thank you, Yuri.
Thank you, Ejiba.
I know you're a busy man.
Thank you.
Good evening, gentlemen. MacArthur. How's your day been?
Good evening, Andrew. My day has been wonderful. Thank you for asking.
Now let's get on with this interview. Now, before we speak about your great legacy in the military, what was your childhood like?
Well, Andrew, I am from a small town in Arkansas and lived at the Little Rock Barracks. My father, Arthur MacArthur, an officer in the Army, played a huge role in my childhood as I learned to ride and shoot before I could even read or write.
Wow, that's very interesting. Now, when did you start thinking about making the military an option of labor?
Well, it began for me very young. It was a goal of mine to attend the academies, and I was grateful to be accepted into the best, West Point, the highest Army college. It was there where I excelled, becoming the #1 cadet in my class, and shortly after, leading a group of men in the Philippines.
Incredible. Could you tell me more about what it was that you did in the Philippines and after?
Of course. In the Philippines, I assisted my father. Then after World War I had begun, I was assigned to lead the 42nd.
Incredible. Could you tell me more about what it was that you did in the Philippines and after?
Of course. In the Philippines, I assisted my father. Then, after World War I had begun, I was assigned to lead the 42nd Rainbow Division in France, to where I was then promoted to Brigadier General.
What was the 42nd Infantry that you led, nicknamed the Rainbow Division?
Well, during a meeting to build this division, we decided to incorporate smaller divisions from all over the country. In this meeting, I made the comment, "This division will stretch over the whole country like a rainbow." It was that comment that made the nickname, and it stuck.
During your military legacy, what would you say your most memorable learning opportunity was?
Well, I love to learn, but my most memorable learning opportunity was when President Herbert Hoover appointed me to the Chief of the Army. Here I was, young, and thought I knew a lot. It was here where I sent Army troops to remove the so-called bonus army of unemployed World War I veterans from Washington, D.C. This incident was a public relations disaster for military.
Interesting. Now, run through your roles you played in World War II.
In World War II, I implemented an island hopping strategy, and it was one of the smartest military decisions I ever made. This strategy was to capture as many small islands in the Pacific around Japan as we could, so when we set to attack Japan, we would have plenty of sufficient supplies to take down the small but powerful country.
Smart. Could you tell me more about the important decisions you made during the Korean War?
Sure. I was the commander of the American-led coalition of United Nations troops. We forced lots of the North Korean military toward China. I was very cautious that China would invade then, come over after us. But China ended up invading, and I wanted to bomb China. President Truman thought of this as a very poor decision, and it was never executed. As China invaded, we retreated back to South Korea. I wanted to start war with China, but before I did anything, I was dismissed as commander of the coalition. Truman was up front and said the decision was due to me possible starting a World War III in Asia.
So what did you do after your military legacy?
Well, my beautiful wife, Jean MacArthur, and I resided in Waldorf Astoria Hotel in New York City. Here I was asked on multiple and approached to run as president for the Republican Party.
Well, thank you, General MacArthur, for your time. It was greatly appreciated.
Thank you for having me.